The next type of error we have is runtime exceptions. A syntactically correct Python program still can have problems. Some language errors depend on the context of the program's execution. Such errors are called runtime exceptions or runtime errors. We say the interpreter raises an exception. Runtime exceptions arise after the interpreter's translation phase and during the program's execution phase. Okay, so runtime errors occurs after the interpreter's translation phase and during the program's execution phase. The interpreter may issue an exception for a syntactically correct statement like x is equal to y plus 2. Suppose if the variable is not defined at the time of writing the code, then interpreter will treat it as an error and it will display as name error. For example, see b plus 2. So we got a name error because b is not defined in our program, elsewhere in our program. If you consider the script file, before writing any variable, we should assign a value for that, or we should define it before using in any of the line code. Another type of error occurs depending on the situation. For example, assume that we have two values, say for example value 1 is equal to int input enter number. Let us enter 4. Next, let us copy and paste for value 2 and enter the value as 5. Now if I use these two numbers to do the division operation, like value 2 divided by value 1, we got the result because we are using the correct values, value 2 5 and value 1 as 4. What if we use value 1 as 0? So let us enter the value as 0 and use this expression to evaluate the division operation. So notice here we got the 0 division error, means division by 0. We have not made any mistake. So listen carefully, we have not made any mistake by entering 0, but Python interpreter thrown an error like zero division error. So using zero is potentially dangerous while doing the division operation. Means division by zero is undefined in mathematics and division by zero in Python is illegal. Sometimes here we have seen value is equal to value 1 is equal to number integer value and value 2 also an integer values. What if the user does not follow the instructions like enter only the integer values, and then if we use these statements value 1 and let us enter the correct integer value like for example 5, and for value 2 suppose if the user does not follow the on-screen instructions. Here the on-screen instruction to evaluate or to get the numbers for values 1 and value 2 means for the variables value 1 and value 2, then interpreter will throw an error. So here in the program or in a code block I have written enter only the integer values. So if the user does not follow this on-screen instruction, then interpreter may throw an error. For example, if I enter string value instead of the integer value, say for example 5 or 2, can notice that 2 is an string value. So we got the value error, invalid literal for int with base 10 means user is not following the on-screen instruction. Let us enter once again, and again if we try to enter 3, again we got the value error. Or if we write inside the string also, we got the value error. So these are the runtime exception or runtime errors. So here as a conclusion, the Python interpreter detects syntax errors immediately. Syntax errors never make it out of the translation phase. Sometimes the runtime errors do not reveal themselves immediately. For example, what we have used 0 for division. Okay. The interpreter issue a runtime exception only when it attempts to execute the faulty statement. The runtime errors or runtime exceptions are more troublesome than the syntax errors. So we must be very careful about the runtime errors. Say they do not reveal, interpreter will not reveal these runtime errors while executing the program. But these runtime errors cause serious issues at the final stage of the program. So we should be very careful about the runtime errors.